The war in Ukraine has had a ripple effect. As Russia holds its fossil fuel supplies as a political weapon, Western countries are seeking alternatives. With the barrage of sanctions and Moscow's tit-for-tat approach, this was long predicted. But climate activists had hoped that this will be a silver lining for the environment and the fight against climate change. You see, at international platforms like the COP26, these rich countries made tall claims to lower emissions and adopt the transition to renewable energy. So now, when an unusual opportunity came up, activists were optimistic that countries will cut their dependence on fossil fuels. But that is not what's happening. Rich countries are making a dash for fossil fuels. So as Russia continues to burn its own natural resources, Western countries are investing elsewhere for new coal, oil and gas. They are either increasing production at home or approaching smaller countries to burn fossil fuel on their behalf. Germany and the Netherlands have announced plans to develop a new North Sea gas field. The plan is going to be executed this month itself. At the same time, Chancellor Olaf Scholz is pursuing Senegal for gas projects. Over to Qatar, where the state-owned Qatar Energy's North Field East is expanding. The firm has signed a partnership deal with international groups for nearly $30 billion. This as part of the world's largest liquefied natural gas project. The United Kingdom has also announced alternative plans. Britain has decided to finance an LNG project in Mozambique. The countries say this is a short-term response and they will soon resume working on their climate goals. The United Nations Secretary General has sent out a warning against this. He said that this short-term response might close the window on a key climate goal.
The energy crisis, exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, has seen a perilous doubling down on fossil fuels by the major economies. New funding for fossil fuel exploration and production infrastructure is delusional. It will only further feed the scourge of war, pollution, and climate catastrophe. Had we invested massively in renewable energy in the past, we should not be so dramatically at the mercy of the instability of fossil fuel markets now.
Guterres calls the new investments quote-unquote delusional because these very countries had promised to cut CO2 emissions by 2030. And like Germany, many are defending their decisions that new projects will not derail the climate plans. However, climate experts are not convinced. They are calling this hogwash because to attain the goals, investments in renewable energy should triple by 2030. But the exact opposite is happening as of now. New projects are being set up to burn more fossil fuels. Countries are clearly facing a crucial question, a challenge: how to tackle the threat to democracy while also fighting climate change. But after years of grindingly slow progress and shifting away from coal, this will spell disaster for attempts to cut greenhouse gas emissions. With us on the broadcast is Anna Ackerman from Geneva. She is a climate and energy policy specialist. Anna, thanks for being here with us. We have been raising this issue consistently, how the Russia-Ukraine war has led to the fight against climate change taking a back seat. In your view, what more can countries possibly do at this point?
Well, first of all, we have to understand clearly that there are many parallels between climate change and Russia's war against Ukraine. It's clear that the roots of both these threats to humanity are in fossil fuels. And Russia sells these resources and uses the money to buy weapons. And they even talk about it openly, so there is no doubt in that. In fact, 40% of Russian state budget is formed by income from fossil fuel industry. If you look at any trade between any country with Russia, India, Europe, you see that Russia sells mostly fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas to everyone. This is how they make the economy and the budget. And let me just give you one number. Russia spends almost $1 billion every single day to continue its war against Ukraine. And according to the report that was released just last week, Russia is getting every single day just enough, more than $1 billion US dollars for its fossil fuel purchases. So the world has already paid during this war, it's for more than 100 days already, $93 billion. And while some countries continue to import, some decline their imports, so they reduced the import of coal, gas, and oil from Russia. Others started increasing it. In Europe, it's France. In other countries, just to mention, it's also India, United Arab Emirates, and others. So now lots is changing. But one important thing that we have to understand that this is a dangerous development that some countries are undertaking is to replace Russian fossil fuels with fossil fuels from other countries, because that would not solve anything. It will especially not solve climate change. So there are two ways that the countries can go ahead with. One is indeed replace, this is what's happening now, Russian fossil fuels with other countries, so 100% replacement. And the second way is speeding up energy transition, energy efficiency efforts, and replacing Russian fossils with cleaner energy resources. So it's a lifetime opportunity. We cannot really miss it, because otherwise the civilization is doomed, because we have been talking for so long about the importance of climate change, how important it is to move ahead to reach that 1.5 degrees of warming. And this is now, when we have all the crises unfolding one by one, energy, food crisis, and all together, we have this opportunity to move ahead, to make this big step ahead toward climate action too. But unfortunately, the reality is that, yes, we are moving too slowly.
Right. As per the figures, investments in renewable energy should triple by 2030 if these climate targets are to be met. Do you see that happening as of now?
At the moment, the inertia is that it's not happening. There are plans that are changing in advanced economies, but also all around the world toward renewables. So we know that Europe already changed their renewable targets, and they really want to move quicker. At least that's what they announced. We don't know how they're going to proceed. But I want to, because Antonio Guterres also in his speech that you mentioned, he said that renewables are the peace plan of the 21st century. And this war showed exactly how vulnerable are centralized fossil-based energy systems, especially during the wartime, because Russia shelled thermal power plants in Ukraine, which is a war crime because it's a critical infrastructure that doesn't allow people leave. They occupied world's 6th largest nuclear power plant, and hundreds of thousands of people were left without electricity. In contrast, renewable energy is a decentralized local energy system that is created by renewables. It provides electricity to people in the most difficult conditions. During the wartime in the occupied territories, people could boil water because there are solar plants on the roofs. They could call their family and check for news and reach the world and so on. So renewables, they actually bring peace, and fossil fuels, we see that they bring destruction in shorter term, in the longer term. So of course we have to develop renewables wisely too. This is something important to remember, because we would be mining for metals and so on. But the level of problems is definitely much lower.
Right.
So this is the path.
Anna Ackerman, thanks very much for being here on the broadcast and sharing your assessment. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.